Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Faculty of Computing and Informatics Research Talk this morning. My name is Jason, and I will be your moderator for today's program. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this very special research talk. Before we begin, may I just kindly remind everyone to please have their microphones on mute during the talk. You may switch them on later during the Q&A session. Thank you. So today we are extremely fortunate to have the pleasure of Prof. Wan Ahmad Tajuddin bin Wan Abdullah to share with us his vast experience in high impact publications. First of all, a very warm welcome to Prof. Wan, and thank you so much indeed for so kindly agreeing to deliver this extremely valuable talk on scholarly article publications to our academic staff. If I may take a moment to briefly introduce our speaker for this morning. Wan Ahmad Tajuddin bin Wan Abdullah is a Fellow of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia and formerly held the following positions: Professor in the Department of Physics, Faculty of Science, University Malaya, specializing in the area of high energy physics, Acting Dean of FSKTM, Dean of Computing and Informatics Research Cluster, and Director of the National Center for Particle Physics. He was also the recipient of the National Young Scientist Award in 1995. He has over 400 WOS publications and has been cited over 12,000 times with a WOS H-index of 54. Prof. Wan, we will have 1 hour for your presentation from 9:30 to 10:30, followed by half an hour of Q&A from 10:30 to 11. And we should be able to complete this program by 11. So if I may now kindly invite Prof. Wan to deliver his presentation. Over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes,
can hear me, Jason?
Yes, sorry? Very clearly.
Okay, I tried to share a PowerPoint slide. Has everyone got it or what?
Yes, we can see it too, yes.
You see it, huh?
Yes.
Okay, okay. This is the first time I'm using Google Meet on my own, so I'm a bit okay, so I suppose do you see what you see on the screen? Do you see the title slide?
Yes, it's been maximized. Very clear, Prof.
Very clear, huh?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you UMS computer faculty for inviting me to talk. I'm already actually, as they say, going towards the sunset. I've just retired during the lockdown from University of Malaya. So this is actually, I think, the first talk I'm giving since my retirement. Okay, so very nice to see so many young people listening. I hope I can be of some benefit to you all. Okay, and so this is what I'm supposed to talk about. Scholarly article publications. On the poster, but on my title, I have omitted the S. I suppose I'm more interested in the process of publication rather than the number of publications. Okay, so that's me. Long name, huh? Okay, PhD in physics, ARCS and DIC Imperial College, fellow of Institute of Physics Malaysia, and Academy of Science. And now I'm retired and I am a citizen of the world. Okay, so let's start with a man. We are all, I think, man or woman. And man has been actually created in the best of form. Okay, and the human being Homo sapiens actually has three advantages over others. One is he has a mind or a capacity for intelligence. Some of you perhaps are studying artificial intelligence. So you might know that human intelligence is actually quite advanced. We are able to process information and knowledge, symbols, even to some extent, other animals show some amount of intelligence, but I think we excel in the ability to process symbols as compared to others. We're able to think and process our thinking. Okay. We are also given the hand, which sometimes we take lightly, but compared to the limbs of a chimpanzee, for example, our hands are quite versatile in the ability to manipulate things. So with that ability, we are able to build, very sophisticated tools and instruments, which we then use to create more sophisticated tools and instruments. But something which perhaps have been quite overlooked in the ability of man is the language. Maybe because this has always been included in his intelligence, in his capability of intelligence. Language, I would like to say, is really a big advantage. As I said, some animals might show some amount of intelligence, but they lack the ability of language or communication to a vast degree. Humans can communicate through language, and through this communication, actually, we can benefit by not having to go through the learning curve again. Okay, we can just communicate results that we have to other people, and they can benefit from this. So in a way, it really speeds up our ability to adapt to the world. If you understand artificial intelligence as adaptability, if you understand biology as adaptability, language is actually or communication is one shall I say operation which speeds up the adaptation or optimization process. Okay. So I said, the human has a mind which can store knowledge, but also he has the ability to communicate through language. So knowledge can be passed on and stored, in the society itself. So we have things like bahasa jiwa bangsa, which means that language or language and communication is the soul of a nation or of a community, which means that knowledge is stored in the community, in the socializing of the people in the community. So if you do information systems, maybe you can go into organizational knowledge and so on, where there is some kind of knowledge stored in the setup of the organization, which is tacit to the people in the organization, but transparent to people outside. So you can see knowledge also if you are doing artificial intelligence, you're doing neural networks, you come up with an idea of that knowledge can be stored in neural networks in models of the brain. But also, if you look at social networks, you can also understand that knowledge can also be stored in networks of people, social networks somewhere in there. Okay, so maybe someone can come up with some kind of model and study this. Okay, so culture, values, traditions, all these are built up from these social interactions through communication, through language, and it builds up the identity of a community, of a nation. So whilst we can communicate verbally, and you know, somehow we have some kind of social storage of knowledge, but unless this is recorded, this knowledge can decay if it remains only orally. Okay, so records are important. Records, of course, are used to document knowledge, what knowledge we have, and categorize them, for example, and relate between them. Okay, so it's not just a description, you know, a sort of passive description of what we know, but it also relates between different pieces of what we know. And of course, records can preserve knowledge much more than the verbal or oral communication can do, or just remembrance or memorizing in the mind can do. And of course, with records, we can also communicate knowledge to other agents in the society or in the community. Because of the nature of records, it has to be factual. Okay, it has to contain facts. I mean, you would not want to record things which are useless, right? Which are okay. It has to be accurate because you are you know, seriously preserving this knowledge. So you have to try to be as accurate as possible. You know, accurate in the sense of in truth as well as in measurement. It would have been deliberated or else subject to deliberation because you are exposing it to the public. So actually, a good record is something which has been deliberated over before presenting, so that you know, you are sure about what you are recording. You have looked at all the connections with other arguments and other records. Okay, records are usually vouched for. This is usually by the identity of the author. Someone who has put in the record, he is in principle responsible for what he has recorded or stored. And if something is wrong, people go to him. And also the sort of institution which keeps these records will also have some kind of mechanism to vouch for the significance or the reliability of these records. Okay, you will probably have some interreferencing, can refer to other records, so that it would not have to store everything on one single record. You know, some other things it can refer to other records. So these are you know, the nature of records, and we need them to conserve our knowledge in the community, in the society. And in the society, we have institutions like universities, which are supposed to be centers of learning, centers of knowledge. you have traditionally universities are supposed to cover breadth of knowledge. You know, all the knowledge in the wide spectrum. That's why I like the definition of a university in Indonesia. Indonesia, you know, to be recognized as a university, you need to offer a certain spectrum of courses, and only you will be recognized as a university. In Malaysia, is rather the sort of the level of the knowledge that's being taught, and then you will be recognized as a university or college university or whatever. Maybe people should take this into consideration. My standards institution, what was it? My QA should take the consideration in certifying universities. You know, you can't just have engineering courses, and even though at degree and postgraduate level, you call it a university, if you don't have the arts as well to balance, okay? Otherwise, it would just be some institute of technology like MIT or something. Okay, so knowledge, universities, breadth of knowledge. Traditionally, you have different branches of knowledge. Also, in those days, you have cross boundaries between the different fields, okay, which especially in computer science, I think in certain universities, some universities I've been in computer science faculty, they tend to, well, at that time, they tend to, you know, be happy in their silos on top of the hill, away from the other faculties, and they're not, you know, they don't get involved in helping to solve the problems in the other fields. And actually, it's a two-way thing. You don't just use, you know, there's not only the chance of using computer science in solving problems in other fields, but also using methods in other fields in computer science. And okay, I suppose the university is a sort of unification of all this knowledge into a single kind of way of thinking or whatever, discipline, single endeavor. Also the depth, okay, I must admit, okay, you need some depth of knowledge as well. And universities are seen as repositories of knowledge, and also knowledgeable people with knowledge in the universities. So it's like part of the FKI, you know, to have people of all the different branches of knowledge, different fields in the universities, and we should not close down departments and faculties just because they can't make money or whatever. Okay, but we have the responsibility of this, you know, of keeping knowledge and people of knowledge in the universities. And not only that, we need to generate new knowledge as well, and we need to generate knowledge workers, you know, mutaharik, people who move the knowledge, who create new knowledge. So not only do the people in the university create new knowledge, but they have to be able to train people who are able to create this knowledge. Okay, so for this, you know, okay, universities need to document knowledge, to preserve knowledge, communicate knowledge, and all this has got to be factual, accurate, deliberated, vouched, and inter-referencing. And you see, these are just what we had on the previous slide for the records, so, which means that universities need records. Okay, so this for those of you in logic programming, this is like abductive reasoning. Okay, academics. usually related, really understood as people in universities, but okay, we can widen that to people in other places as well. These are scholars, people who study knowledge, generate new knowledge, who keep knowledge in themselves. Okay, they are fellows and the masters of knowledge. So that's why in the early universities you have fellows and masters of colleges, you know. They're able to profess the knowledge that they know, and they are intellectual in the sense that you know, their method of thinking, their way of thinking is refined and trained on the disciplines of knowledge. Okay, so for them also, they need to document knowledge, preserve knowledge, communicate knowledge, etc. Blah blah blah. So abductively, they also require records. So records are very important. Oops. Okay. Okay. Let me go back. And these records are also used as part of impact assessment. You know, they need not to be the only measure of impact assessment. For impact assessment, you know, they need not be the only measure of impact. You know, impact of a university or impact of academics. But these can be part of the measure of impact. You know, the quantity of publications, i.e., how much research is done, how much new knowledge is generated, and the quality of publications. How good are the publications? You know, you might have numbers, but you might not have quality. So quality again, how do you measure quality of publications? Does it lead to a Nobel Prize, for example? Or does it lead to new, you know, new applications, new policies, new government policies, etc.? And this is actually a criteria if you're up for Professor Ulung. You know, one of the criteria is your H-index, blah blah blah. You need to be above average for people, for the average in your field in the world, and then you need to have something. You know, the panel considers as something which directly have impact on whatever government policies or new inventions or whatever. Not just general, not just have a general impact on things. So if you are going for Professor Ulong, have in mind. Otherwise, an easy way of measuring quality of publications, citations, how many people cite your work. Of course, citations can be negative as well as positive. But in a sense, negative citations are also perhaps laudable because you are actually creating a debate in your scientific or in your domain community. Otherwise, citations, you know, show that or should show that, you know, people are reading your work and they are you know, carrying on from there. So your work has some impact on their own search for new knowledge. So of course, these are used in your in consideration for your promotion exercises and so on. So you better you know, start thinking about this, because for citations it would need a lot of time to build up. So need to write papers which would be you know, cited a lot from now. Okay, so as academic staff in the universities, I think most of us are, except me, I'm retired. Okay, we're supposed to teach, research and publish, administer and manage, and some social responsibilities. Usually you get 5 marks for that in your KPI or whatever. Okay, so these are the, I think the sort of discovers what our job description is. Okay, let me just put some rough figures onto the percentage that this task should take. Teach maybe 50% conservatively in the country like Malaysia. Maybe they ask us to teach more. So okay, let's say you teach 50% of your time, or you're supposed to take up 50% of your time and effort in teaching. And then you supposed to do research and publish as well in the universities. Okay, say 30%. This is a safe low estimate. And you do a lot of administer. If you're in the your head department or dean, will be doing more of this. But let's say 15% is taken for attending meetings, etc., etc. Which I think with IT we can actually decrease that. Yeah, sad to say that we have so many experts in IT and organizational workflow, blah blah blah. But we still haven't managed to really come up with a nice system for information system management system for the universities. See, there's a lot of bureaucracy there, and things take so much time to get done. We have the technology, but well, I tried for 30 years to change this, but there's another story. Okay, and social responsibilities, social outreach, talking to people, villagers, going to kampongs, and etc. and etc. Maybe 5%. Okay, does not include political lobbying. Yeah? Okay, so let's say you work, or you're supposed to work 35 hours a week, right? Should be 40 perhaps, but let's say it's 35. Okay, so that means if it's 30% research, that means you're supposed to do 10.5 hours of research per week. Okay, however you do it, wherever you do it, whenever you do it. But in total, at least 30%, it should be 10 hours. This is solid research, not including coffee and other things. Okay, so that means okay, let's say for a piece of research, okay, just one chunk of research. You want to answer some questions. Let's say each piece of research takes this amount of time, maybe about 150 hours. Okay, literature review maybe takes 30 hours. There's a lot of reading, 30 hours. But okay, let's be conservative and say we accept these figures. Say in design preparation, 30 hours experimentation, or whatever it is, theorizing, if you are theoretical scientist, or doing mathematical calculations, or doing computer simulations, whatever. 50 hours, a lot of hours, right? Some analysis on the results and write up. Okay, so let's say 150 hours is, it's a solid 150 solid hours is a reasonable time to finish a chunk of research or a piece of research. That means after 150 hours, we should have come up with some record, okay, some document of this piece of research. It might not be published, it might be in the form of a report or a preprint, or it can even be, submitted to a conference, presented at a conference, or even published as a paper. But you should get a piece of a record of a piece of research for every 150 hours. Okay, agreed? Yes, thank you very much. So that means if you're doing 10.5 hours research per week, you should finish. You should come up with a piece of record of report or paper every 15 weeks. Okay. So if you have 52 weeks in a year, that means at least 3 research report documents per year. And I suppose that's reasonable, the KPI for for normal lecturers in UM is two papers, I think, a year or something like that. Okay. So so if you're doing less than that, that means you might be spending less time than you should in the research tasks, or you're spending more time than you should in your piece of research. Okay, so please back up. So at least you should see 3 research documents. But this, of course, assuming that you are doing it alone. So if you're doing it in a group, maybe it should be more. Okay. Right. Okay, so that's what you should do, what you should be doing. Let's now talk about what should be written in these records, in these papers. What should be published? These are, of course, scholarly, as the title says, scholarly academic publications. Of course, you can also publish, things in newspapers, on YouTube, for example, on Facebook. But this has different audience. You have, people have these exhibitions, quite a lot these days, where they talk about gold medals and silver medals. These exhibitions, technology exhibitions, the inventions, etc. I see these exhibitions, actually the audience is for are the business people, the industry. So you're actually presenting your results to the industry. That's why I see these exhibitions as to present your results, your records to other peers, to other people in the academic community. Then it's, of course, in the academic journals. So what you should write? What should you write? There, of course, it has to be something original. People don't want to. I mean, it's not much use if you want to record something which has been recorded before. Okay, people don't want to read something which has been done before. So it has to be original. Originality actually is the condition for a PhD. If a PhD, you can get a PhD if you have some piece of original research, some original results. Okay, so which means that if you can publish a paper from your PhD, that means from your research in PhD, that means you should get PhD, or the other way around. Okay, your paper should be something which is original and of interest. So novel results of interest. Of course, you can also get novel results, but of not much interest. You might have a new measurement for the, I don't know, for the average length of earthworms in Subang Jaya or whatever. It's a new result, but it might not be of interest to a lot of people. So there might not be any audience for it. No journals like to publish it. No journals, catered for it. Okay, so novel results. Novel methods, you can also publish on novel methods. You have new method of doing things, of measuring certain things. You have this new way of doing it. Maybe it's much cheaper, maybe it's much more accurate. So you need to compare with all methods, of course, if you want to present this. Novel ideas, you have some new ideas which is different from current ideas. But of course, you cannot just report on some half-cooked idea which you happen to have when you were showering this morning or whatever. But you need to work out on these ideas, see the implications, see their consistency, whatever their mathematical consistency, and even carry out experiments based on these new ideas. Okay, so just new ideas, hand waving is not enough. You need to solidify it. And Okay, you can also have alternative results to whatever has been measured before. Someone has measured something 3.8, you somehow got a measurement of 5.6. You know, you can report this if you're of interest to the community. Other methods, alternative methods, and the ones being used in the mainstream, positive ideas, alternative interpretations of things. In fact, you can have papers in the form of comments, or you can write for news and views in Nature, whatever, but that tends to be a bit more away from scholarly publication, but it has some amount of intellect in there, because you're arguing for certain things. Okay, you can also write reviews actually, and reviews are not just a description of what people have done. This guy's done that. This guy's done that. He's made this. He got this. You need some kind of critical comments in your review that will make it more stronger. And writing a review actually is a good way of getting a lot of citations, because people usually refer to some review when they are doing a certain study of certain things, isn't it? So good to write reviews, get citations, and before the reviews were invited by certain journals, but I think now a lot of journals, they can publish reviews, even though it's not invited. It's not, But the important thing in the content is you have to explain what's new. You have to report what's new. So what's new, and why? Even though it's new, why it is important? In the fabric of the knowledge of the world. Why is your new thing important? Okay. How to write? Sorry.
Sorry, Prof. There's some
yeah. Any questions?
Question or what? Dr. Azmadi, do you have a question? If not, could you please mute your mic, Dr. Azmadi?
Okay, I thought I was saying something wrong. Okay, anyway. So how? Okay, these are standard things. Grammar, I think is something which we have problems with in Malaysia. In examining theses, or in being referees for papers, even being supervisors. I and probably most of us usually find grammar to be a very big problem, and it's not just that it gives a poor view of the author to the editors, but sometimes it can also distort the meaning of what you're trying to say, because of the poor grammar. You want to say something else, but the meaning comes out different. So this is something not to be taken lightly off. Style as well. Style, when you write for an academic journal, for example, should not be in the style of storytelling, of some historical narrative, of a tutorial. It should be in the appropriate style, and this also tells actually, especially when we have problems with plagiarism, we can actually detect that certain passages have been plagiarized from somewhere because the style is not appropriate. So it's been taken from some place where the style is meant for that. Okay, so these are the standard things. but what we say in the paper has got to be founded on something. You know, you can't just make a statement without any foundation. Any statement must be either, you know, is common knowledge, so it's accepted by the audience, or else you have some reference to it. Where do you get this from? Okay, so you need some reference, or else it's something that you have argued for in the previous paragraphs or something, or you have the results for this in this paper, you know, in the data, in the table, the graph somewhere. Okay, so you should not just write statements which are baseless. The referencing is important. We need to reference, especially quotations that we take from somewhere. You know, here plagiarism comes into play. You should be careful of this. Okay, we should not copy wholesale from other people's work and then make it sound as it's our own. We need to give due reference to people. And the content of the record of the document has got to build up from somewhere. You know, you start with what the world knows and where the world is going, what people are interested in, what are the issues, and from there you set up your journey in the paper, your trajectory to answer questions that come from here. Okay, so there's a nice you know, flow, and of course we'll get rejections, especially in the early attempts, but you know, rejections actually can be good. You can actually use the comments of the referee to make better your publication, your paper, sorry, and send it to the journal. Okay. In my younger days, I had my share of rejections, and interestingly, one paper which I wrote to a maybe sort of tier 2 journal got rejected, and I improved it and sent to a tier 1 journal, and it got published. so don't be disappointed by the referee's comments. Either if the referee is right, that means you know, we have something lacking in our paper, and if the referee is wrong, or we think the referee is wrong, then there's also fault in our paper, which means that we are not able to explain clearly in the paper, which makes the referee to misunderstand what we want to say. Okay, so both ways is our fault. Again, you need to explain what's new and why it is important. Okay, who shall we publish with? Solo, alone. Of course, you know, single author papers carry a lot of weight. But also we can write in groups. And sometimes we have to write in groups because we work in collaborations. For example, if you are wondering how I get so many citations, so many papers, this is a, you know, on the right here, on the top right, is an example of one of my papers with the CMS collaboration. This is in Journal of Energy Physics. And this long list of array of web pages is actually the list of authors, okay, the authors in the paper. If you see on the right, you know, it's just a partial list, but the list goes on to about 2,000 authors. So all of us are authors of this paper. But we list the authors in in an alphabetical order, so those whose names are, start with A and there are more advantages. Not only the authors, but also the institutions. So that's why you see Runyan as the first author there. But there's an advantage publishing a group, because in a group like here, this is published by the CMS Collaboration. It's a very strong group, and so you are associated with this group, so that gives you plus points. If you are working with your students or your supervisor, then it's of course their names are usually included. There seems to be some difference of opinion between the fields, because I got to understand before that people in the arts would not put their names as authors on their students' paper, because that we considered plagiarism. Because I suppose in the arts, a lot of work is done in argumentation, etc. So a lot of work is done by the students. The ideas given by supervisors are considered not substantive enough, as opposed to warrant his name on the paper. In the sciences, on the other hand, usually you, as a student, you have to include your supervisor's name on the paper. And usually you start with the supervisor's name first. Then later on, as you mature and you do more work, the supervisor's name moves towards the end of the list. Now, in a way, it's good because you get introduced to the community with your supervisor, and then later on, you would then be able to do it on your own. If you are doing collaborations with other colleagues, of course, you need their names on it, and especially if these people are well known in the field, then it's helpful to have their names on it. Okay? If people contribute to the work, to the paper, the results of the paper, they should have their names on the paper. You should not run away with the paper and just put your own name there and forget about the others. Okay. If you are able to work with the masters of the field, the leading researchers in the field, then you might be able to write papers with them, and with their names on the paper, then also become as them. For example, here on the right, left, also on the right and the bottom, we have this paper by some people from Malaysia. You might know some of these people there. But one of the authors in the paper is Raj Kumar Buya from University of Melbourne. Is very well known for his work on networks, cloud computing and so on. So by having your name in the same paper as his, well, okay, that's a very big plus point. Maybe some people, that's why some people get to be top researchers in their field, as announced just recently. Of course, you need consents for, you just don't put people's name on your paper and thinking, oh, I'm doing a favor to them. You need consent for them to have their name on your paper, because whatever's in the paper is, they're also responsible for it. And, a good co-author would also go through the paper and agree to the contents of the paper. Okay. Where would you like to publish? Journals are nice, and you have to choose which journals you want. For example, in physics, we have this kind of journals which we call letters, physics letters. These are actually, where we have short important results which are published quickly. And the details of these results would then be written in a longer paper and maybe published in, for example, Journal of Physics. Okay. So you have different types of journals. You have these regional journals, Ukrainian Journal of Physics or Chinese Journal, which might be easier to get your papers published in. Not necessarily, but maybe. And there are, journals like Physics Reports, which actually are specialized in reviews. So you can send review articles. Certain, you have also got to look at what the journal is leaning towards. I mean, what are the what towards what school the journal is leaning to. For example, of course, these IE transactions on pattern analysis and machine intelligence, which should be doing just that, publish papers on artificial intelligence, blah blah blah. But of course, in those days, 1980s, artificial intelligence was more symbols based. So I submitted a paper on neural networks once in this IEE PMI, and they rejected and they say, it's not our line. But now they've started to publish papers on neural networks, or here and there. I tried to submit a paper once to artificial intelligence, and they say, "Oh, we only publish, whole theories, not just partial results, etc." And also, different journals, different domains, different fields have their own different issues and different ways of doing things, different ways of arguing. I got out some, I thought, philosophical results from doing neural networks and stuff, and I tried to publish in some philosophy journal, and they rejected and they say this is a good example of a bad paper. So that was the most profound rejection letter I had. Okay, you have Journal of Energy Physics. Here's an open access journal, which is publishes a lot of paper on energy physics. Of course, the energy should not try to publish results from low energy physics here, of course. But in another sense, this Journal of Energy Physics also publishes, may I say, marhain papers on this, papers that are not so astounding as you might publish in physics letters or physical review letters, and which are more mundane, you can publish here. Yeah, and you should look at the what the journal is called. For example, American Journal of Physics, even though it sounds like General Physics Journal, but actually it is a journal for physics education. So you have articles and papers on physics education there rather than on mainstream physics. Proceedings, of course, you can submit to conferences and get published in proceedings. These are, of course, easier than journals, even though now even conferences have referees and so on. But this is somewhat easier and it's faster. Publication in journals might take a long time. So if you want to get your results out quickly, you go to conferences, but of course, it's not distributed as widely as in journals. If your results are more, more long-lasting, then you might think of books and monographs and maybe book chapters. And if your results are not too profound, you can write reports, institutional reports and preprints. And actually, this can be actually submitted to repositories, online repositories and archives. Like here on the right here is the archive.org, which has a section on computer science. See here. So it's non-refereed. You can submit anything as long as it's within the subject matter, and you can then put it up there, and people can read it and download it, comment on it. So what you need to do is write. Okay. One thing just now, Actually, you can also send preprints to these archives, so that even though your paper is taking a long time to be published in the journal, you can actually get the results out to everyone, so that everyone knows that, okay, you have done this. You've done this first. Okay, and right, what you need to do is write. Even if you have the best idea in the world, you are very brilliant, but you don't write about it, you don't communicate it, then no one will know. You go to the grave with that idea. Even you have the most cleverest person in the world, you have the greatest knowledge in the world, no one will know if you don't communicate. So by the way, this you need to write. Jangan short sendiri, right? Okay, so just 2 minutes ago, and minta maaf, and terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Wan, for that extremely informative and enlightening presentation. So I'd now like to open the session for Q&A. If you have any questions, you may now ask Prof. Wan, or you can also type in the chat box. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Wat.
Waalaikumsalam.
Actually, Prof, years ago when I was doing my PhD, I contacted you. I don't know if you remember my name or whatever. I was trying to interview you for my PhD and everything else, because you were one of the top professors at the time, around 2009. Prof, your contributions will always be remembered by the nation, Prof. The thing that intrigued me was during your time as an academic, you also enjoyed writing poetry. Banyak tulis sajak, sastra kan, Prof. So I know basically that is not part of your academic work, but it was something that helped enhance your understanding. So yeah, I know basically you put there as a category of 5%, like 5% of social activities and everything. Tapi in your own mind, how did your own work in poetry and everything else actually influence your own academic output, or how did actually it motivated you to serve in the academic roles that you have, Prof?
Wow. Okay. Writing poetry is much easier, kan? Because you don't need to do all these things and think about, what other people are thinking. Is it according to the issues involved, blah blah blah, and you don't need to have foundation for your statements. You don't need references. You don't need to prove what you say is true. But that's one advantage of writing poetry, I suppose. If you have half-baked ideas which you think might be true, but you have not got the energy or stamina to work through it like a scientist or an academic, then just write poetry and about these things, and this is a good way of throwing out ideas which you haven't proven in your papers. Okay, that's one way lah. So but on the other side, so that might answer your question a bit. But on the other side, which is not related to your question, is that in the literature, so this is out of the topic, but in literature, we should not let literature, you shouldn't let poetry or art or whatever, painting or music or whatever, novels to be monopolized by people in the arts. Because people in science have got different views of the world, different approaches to the world, different experiences in the world, which they need to write. So this in the form of recording of experiences of rather than of academic content, but of experiences, which I think is so important, because it's also related to this idea of a social fabric of knowledge, to the culture, to the common experience and so on. Okay. Let's try that.
Thank you very much, Prof. Yeah, I get what you mean. Basically, it's the social fabric, meaning that whether or not it's science or arts, it basically complements each other. And right. Yeah, this is how we basically expand upon new ideas and also the knowledge itself. Thank you very much, Prof. And then just to remind you, that's why when I wanted to interview Dulu too, the reason, I think just last minute, you messaged me at that time and said, oh, you had another different meeting, but it's okay, Prof. At least I was able to ask this question after about 11 years.
11 years, huh?
Thank you very much, Prof. Assalamualaikum.
Okay. Waalaikumsalam. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Prof. Wan, please?
If you don't ask question, I ask question to you lah. Can I?
Prof, maybe I have a question of my own.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, to be, I think many of us aspire to be a distinguished professor and eminent scientist like you. What would be 3 pro tips you can give us in terms of our academic careers?
Academic careers.
Yes, three tips, most important tips to be an
Your
eminent.
own computer science kan, most of you?
They are from different disciplines. I have colleagues from other faculties here as well.
Oh, okay. I suppose you have to, excel according to your job specifications lah. If you're teaching 50%, so you have to excel 50% in teaching. You should not forget teaching altogether just because you want to research, and you have to excel 30% in research and publications. In research, so you need to publicize your results, right? You need to write papers for the journal, for your peers, for people in the field. You need to, if your ideas can be given to the industrialists, then you need to present in the exhibition, and you need to present to the society as well. I suppose this is much lacking now in Malaysia. The academics are not telling society what they are doing, what they have achieved, and how their discoveries can or how or could or have been benefiting society. Now people are thinking, oh, people in universities are just doing useless stuff, and in the ivory tower and talking academically. So even when the people say, oh, that's just academic, that's got a bad meaning to it. That means it's not practical, etc., etc. So excellence in that sense, I suppose. Okay, so that's the tip. I think whatever you do, you have to do your best, I suppose. Don't have any special tip, but whatever you do your best. If you're teaching, you should do your best. And if you're doing research, you do your best. With your family, you should do your best. You should not do your best with your family while doing research, for example, or you should not do your best with research with your family. You know what I mean? You actually focus on what you're doing. I don't know. Maybe I've not come up with any the secret recipe to being looked on as glamorous.
Thank you so much, Prof. Wan. I think you hit it on the head. Like, that's the most important thing to excel in every aspect, Prof. Thank you.
Right.
I got a question.
Yeah, Prof.
Okay, Prof. Wan, can you share with us?
Yes.
This is very honest question that I would like to ask you. What was the factor that really compelled you to be interested in writing? And what was the reason? What was the factor?
To what? To really what? The factor
really
with what?
interested in writing.
Writing.
Yeah.
Okay, writing. Writing what? Poetry. Writing.
I'm talking about scholarly writing.
Sorry.
I'm talking about
writing.
Writing.
Sorry.
Scholarly writing.
Scholarly writing. Okay. I suppose it's a yearning, or it's a feeling of responsibility that I should communicate what I know, or what I've found out to others, and also in a way, if what I found out is something new and different or whatever, then there's excitement of communicating this to others. I suppose that's it. And right now, bila dah tua, dah pension ni, I feel that it's my social responsibility as well to hand down what I've learned in society, with society, through the nurture of society, giving me chance and scholarship, etc., to go and study. And then now I need to hand this down, this knowledge, maybe in terms of a monograph or book or whatever. Okay, so I suppose itulah. Don't you feel so? I think you should also be writing your magnus opum, Prof. Okay.
Any other questions for Prof. Wan, please?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Prof. Wan, good morning. My name is Muhammad Ahmad. I'm currently a PhD student in UTM. So most of the sharing from you just now is actually make me realize that the importance of being very good and kind, especially in terms of sharing what we have. Write what we know, especially new things. But as a PhD student, I'm still a student. Most of the sharing is about academician. What is your maybe like tips or that I can adopt it and then make it part of my life and then be a later a successful academician maybe? Please share, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't quite get what you're trying to ask, but let me just say anything anyway. Yeah, you got it there. As Jason said, it's now you got the nail on the head. Sharing is very important. As they say, I forgot where the saying comes from. When you share your knowledge doesn't decrease. Okay, it's not that you share your knowledge, then you have less, the other guys more. Actually, it nurtures both of you. So by sharing, it actually increases the understanding and the knowledge. You got to, I think, spend some of your time other than doing your research, if you're doing experimental research, whatever, at your experiment desk or in front of your computer terminal. Other than that, you need to spend some time to talk with colleagues and discuss about things. You know, even things which may not be related to the research you're doing, but sometimes it can give you insights into issues and to things, the ways of doing things, into things that you should go to and so on. And do that as well with the academic staff. You know, you should spend time having coffee together, whatever. I remember when I was a PhD student, this place in London, it seems like a sort of unwritten rule. At 10 o'clock in the morning, everyone goes to have coffee. 10 o'clock exactly. Everyone goes to have coffee, and 10 minutes they go off. So you know, it's sort of something like a ritual, but actually it helps. And in UC Malaysia, for example, I spend a lot of time with the people in the arts faculty, and a lot of things you know, you can discuss about even academic and other things. So this is some kind of sharing, and it also initiates you know, further work and further collaboration. I don't know, maybe that answers part of your question, or that partly answers your question, or you like to clarify lagi macam dalam Viva kan. Is that what you're trying to ask?
Yeah, I'm actually just in my second year, Prof.
Second year, eh? Okay, bagus.
Yeah.
You know, in Europe, they go and you know, PhD students play tennis, or in America, play tennis with their supervisors. In Europe, they go skiing with their supervisors. So you should go and you know, that's part of the sharing. It's actually, I suppose, it's the tradition of universities. Kan you have supervisors ni macam in the traditional way of learning. You have the tok guru, so you learn by being associated with the tok guru. You not only learn the content from him, but you learn his approach to the content, his actions on the content, etc., etc. If you're doing experiment, for example, you learn what is important in the experiment, what are the things that you look out for, etc. Which you don't find in the papers or in the books.
Yes,
These are
right,
tacit
Prof.
knowledge. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof.
All right. No problem.
Prof, if I may read out a comment and question for Prof from Tamrin. We are writing what we love to. Is it the best? It is the best motivation to write. Do you agree, Prof? That was the comment and question from Tamrin.
Yes, yes. Very good, very good. As you said, hit the nail on the head. We are academics, so we love what we're doing anyway, isn't it? So we love to tell others our results and, you know, why our research is important, isn't it? Very good. So that answers to most of the questions asked as well.
Thank you, Prof. Any other questions for Prof. Wan? Okay, if there are no more questions, maybe I'd like to bring the Q&A session to a close, as well as to conclude this morning's special research talk. So on behalf of the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, UMS, thank you so much again, Prof. Wan. We really appreciate an effort to give this very engaging and informative talk on scholarly article publications. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the attendees as well who have joined us this morning. Thank you so much again, everyone. Goodbye and have a really wonderful day.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much again, Prof.
Terima kasih,
Wat.
Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Jason. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Keep safe.